So now that we've kind of investigated the first quadrant, let's take a look at the second, the third, and the fourth. And again, what we have going on, first of all, is symmetries. So for a 30-degree angle, right, its symmetric, its partner, its reference angle of 30 degrees would be 150 degrees over here, which we know to be 5 pi over 6 in radian mode. And if we just take a look at the symmetry, the x-coordinate now has to be negative, right? Negative square root of 3 over 2. And the y-coordinate basically has to stay the same. So essentially, right, there's your cosine value of 150 or 5 pi over 6. And there is your sine value of 150 or 5 pi over 6. And we just basically keep using that. So the next one, again, because of the symmetry, we have a 45-degree reference for this particular terminal side. And in terms of that, a 45-degree reference, that is essentially 135 degrees, which in radian mode is 3 pi over 4. And again, just looking at the symmetry, the x value needs to be negative, right? So negative square root of 2 over 2, and the y-coordinate would have to be the same. And so again, there is your cosine and your sine value, the exact values for 135 or 3 pi over 4, whatever mode you want to be in. And then last but not least, the 60-degree reference here that I have in quad 1 has a 60-degree reference here in quad 2. And so this is 120 degrees, which we know to be, excuse me, which we know to be 2 pi over 3 in radians, and just matching my x-coordinate has to be negative, and my y-coordinate has to be positive, because it's still on the positive y-axis. And so there's, again, your cosine and your sine value for 120 degrees or 2 pi over 3. Again, things we've already known. Hopefully you guys were starting to know, because I hope I did a decent job of kind of forcing the issue in other definitions. And this is just like, oh, okay, it's nothing new. The only thing new is we're on the unit circle, and you know, we're talking either angle of rotation or we're talking arc length. So there's the new stuff, but the idea still remains the same. Moving along, right, so here's a 30-degree reference in quad 3. We know that to be 210 degrees, right? But in radian mode, that's 7 pi over 6. And again, because of the symmetry, right, both of these x and y values would have to be negative down here. So we're talking about negative square root of 3 over 2 and negative 1/2. So there's your cosine and your sine value for 210 or 7 pi over 6, depending on what mode you're on. As we keep moving on, we have a 45-degree reference angle. So that in quad number 2, this is 225 degrees, which is basically 5 pi over 4. All right, and then again, because of the symmetry, what used to be double positive here, right, has to be double negative down here. So negative square roots of 2 over 2, negative square roots of 2 over 2. And there's basically your exact values. Sorry, that looks bad. 225 degrees and 5 pi over 4 respectively. If we keep rotating, we're talking about a 60-degree reference, and so this would basically be 240 degrees. And in terms of radian mode, this would be basically 4 pi over 3. And because of the symmetry, what used to be a double positive here is a double negative there. So we get negative 1/2 for the x-coordinate and negative square root of 3 over 2 for the y-coordinate. And now you have your cosine and your sine value for these two special angles. Again, something we already knew using other stuff, but just reinforced with our unit circle. And then just on and on. Here, this is a 30-degree reference in quad 4. So we know that to be in degree mode, that's 330 degrees. In radian mode, that is basically 11 pi over 6. And because of the symmetry, the x-coordinate remains positive, right? It's the same as that one, but the y-coordinate is now negative 1/2. So there's your cosine and your sine value, your x and your y value for those special angles. Moving right along, here's a 45-degree reference. So in this quadrant, that's 315 degrees. And right here, this is basically 7 pi over 4. And again, because of the symmetry, the x-coordinate is the same, square root of 2 over 2, but the y-coordinate now needs to be negative. And again, there's your x and your y, or your cosine value and your sine value for these special angles. Again, something we already knew. And then last but not least, we have a 60-degree reference. and that basically corresponds to 300 degrees, right? And in radian mode, this is basically 5 pi over 3. And again, because of the symmetries, the x value would still have to be a half, and the y value would now have to be negative. So really, I think what it comes down to is if you can remember what your x and your y values are on your unit circle in quad 1, all we're basically doing is using their reference angles, right, and their symmetries, right, of their x and their y coordinates to fill in all the other details. So really, it's all about memorizing things in quad 1, and then you just kind of have to open that up, use symmetries, right, some, you know, here x is negative, over here it's positive. Down here they're both negative, so double positive, double negatives. Here the x is positive and the y is negative. Again, that stuff we already knew using some other stuff. We're just organizing it in a nice little unit circle, which hopefully, you know, helps your memory aid or whatever. I know for me personally, I always just drew right triangles. So, but if this helps you, it helps you. I know for me personally as a student, it didn't, you know, but that's a subjective thing. So use it for what you want. Again, all it does is help us organize our and help us memorize our special angles. And that's basically it. And why there's so much emphasis on it, I have no idea. Because we can find all those values using x and y, our definitions, or what I like to do is just draw a representative right triangle in the quadrant like you guys have been doing and doing just fine. But there you have it, all right? So don't want to trample on it too much because I know some of you will love it because it is. It's just another way of organizing our thoughts and just another way of getting that done. If it helps you, that's good. I just know for me personally, when I was a student, it didn't. It just seemed to be like, ugh. So, but that's, like I said, subjective. But now we're going to do, right, now that we have everything in order, right, we have circular functions, we have a way to memorize, you know, our special values. Now we're going to basically go redo a bunch of old trig stuff using our new definition, using our circular definition. But obviously that's going to happen in some more videos coming shortly. So see you guys in a moment.